You are listening to Vitruvian Man with Jesse and Josh.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with my co-host Josh.
What's up, Jesse?
How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Pretty great. I saw a really excellent band the other night. I wanted to tell you about real quick.
I'm bummed I didn't get to go.
Shark in the Water. You guys should Google or YouTube Shark in the Water band or Shark in the Water live. You'll find them.
Yeah,
of course,
YouTube.
It's a three-piece punk band, and they all dress like sharks, and every songs are about sharks. And like, there's things like, you know, you'll hear a lot of punk bands count down to the next song. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? They'll go 1, 2, 3, shark. And so just so many shark puns, it's impossible to even count them all. But just great stuff. Like they'd say after every song, they wouldn't say thank you. They'd say thank you food, right? Because the audience is food.
Thank you, chum.
Yeah. You know, and they, at one point they said, after one song, they said, you know, I just want you all to know that sharks are vegans. So sharks would never eat meat. And then they'd all collectively go together. That's a shark lie, right? And they'd have a drum hit and then a bass hit. It's like mini song called Shark Lie, Shark Fact. So all kinds of, just one of the funniest things I ever saw.
I'm bummed I missed it.
Yeah, and you know, Guar is playing in a few months, and Guar is cool. But the thing is, I just scratched my Guar itch for about $10, and Guar is probably $60. So
I was going to ask if you want to go see that.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, all right. And so now, did you stay for Schizo?
No, I didn't stay.
You didn't stay, okay.
God bless him. I was pretty tired, so
yeah.
I took off.
Yeah, it was a long day.
It was, but good band, Shark in the Water.
Awesome.
I recommend them.
Keep me up on that because I will definitely go see them.
Oh, you're going to go see them. Yeah, you are 1,000% coming with me to go see those guys. It was fantastic.
Awesome.
All right, so this week we have a weird one. We have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK. People call him RFK, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Presidential candidate, a former environmental lawyer. To start out with real quick, long before podcasts were a thing, terrestrial radio was a thing. And I listened to a lot of AM radio, some FM, but a lot of talk radio and stuff. And I actually liked Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He had a show for many years while he was doing these environmental litigations, and I really admired him. Seemed like to be on the right side of everything, you know, suing big corporations for polluting and just lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit.
Working with indigenous tribes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I would have said I admired him back in that day. You know, I mean, he had his voice thing still, but I mean, whatever. I couldn't say a bad thing about him.
Right.
And then something happened.
It's so fucking weird. Like, okay, I mean, let's get down to it. You know, so
he is the nephew of JFK,
son of Bobby.
He was with his father Bobby when his father Bobby passed away.
Yeah, they flew him in.
Yeah, obviously struggled. You know, had a rough childhood.
So he was 14. He was 9 when Jack died. He was 14 when Bobby got killed.
Right.
And soon after that, he started having, you know, behavioral problems, which you would totally expect.
Well, and the funny thing is that one of the articles said that he struggled with drug abuse and then was arrested for marijuana possession. It's like, that's not really true. That's not drug abuse, right? Because later on, he's arrested for heroin.
Well, I mean, if you think about it at the time, because 14 is born in 54, you're looking at like 68. So 68, 69 getting busted with weed
is not good.
As one of the scions of a major American family, that's a big fucking deal.
Oh, no, a huge scandal.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a big deal. Not that I'm, you know, I love the weed.
Yeah.
So it ain't
but I mean,
about
in
that.
General,
but
obviously,
at the time,
a minor drug in modern era, but in that age, a very huge scandal
and
for him to get arrested
for who
that.
he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and you know, he started having behavioral problems. Got kicked out of like, I guess, 3 different schools.
Yeah. Found out his dad got shot while he was at a boarding school.
That's right. They went and picked him up and flew him over to California.
Can we talk about how wild it is that rich people send away their kids for months at a time to boarding schools? Like, I'm not saying no good parent ever did that, but I am saying I bet a lot of shitty parents did that. You know, I mean, like, I'm not sure what excuse there is for I don't want to be around my son for several months at a time. So just throwing that out there.
What movie? There was some movie, or maybe it was a television show where the mom came back to town and basically said to her son, "Yeah, I never liked you.
That's the holdovers? Are you talking about the holdovers?
No.
Okay.
I never liked you. That's why we sent you away."
So basically the kid probably suspected it all along, and then suddenly the mom is just telling him the worst thing.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll have to do some house cleaning and figure that one out, because that was when I watched that, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
There's people that should never had kids, right? We can agree on that.
Absolutely.
So my dad, for example.
I'm glad he had you, my man.
I'm glad you too, man. You too. All right. So RFK, again, I liked him. He was clearly on the right side of environmental law, and now you said, okay, should we talk about the brainworm, or should we get to earlier stuff before we talk about the brainworm?
Kind of cover,
okay,
how he got to where he is today, because I think that's like kind of the key to who he is today.
Right.
Is what happened when he was young.
So that trauma, you're saying, led him on the path to what he is now?
That trauma, I think, really did that, as well as, one of the things that his grandfather said is that there will be no crying in this house.
Oh, the grandfather is a psychotic person. Did you read the stories about the grandfather putting hardcore porn under their bed when they were children?
Oh no, I never heard that.
I'll have to look it up, but I'm fairly sure that's a real thing.
Huh.
So the grandfather was Joe?
Yeah.
And let's just say that if you have beef with how the Kennedys treat women, you should talk to Joe about that. I'm not saying they don't bear any responsibility, but apparently he was a real awful person.
The mythologizing that he does of him and his family in his book, American Values, is fucking disgusting, because he glosses over what they were really like to present this idyllic family life on fucking in Hyannisport, right up in north part of Massachusetts.
A family life so great, by the way, that they send him away for months to school.
So. Well, that was just for the education.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There's all the mythologizing. So they leave out, like, and he's talking about how Joe's politics were super groundbreaking at the time, and
So Joe is liberal?
That's what he'd like you to believe.
Doesn't seem right.
I think that that's not necessarily the case, but he did work with FDR on a lot of the New Deal stuff.
Oh, he did.
I don't know how. It's really hard to suss out, because you're getting this.
Was he in the FDR administration?
I don't know if he was actually in the administration, but he was friends consulted with.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was straight in the administration, but it's very possible that he was.
Well, I'm a fan of the New Deal. Obviously that would carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So the most giant, progressive, sweeping liberal legislation in our country's history, and
Absolutely.
did the most good too. By the way, I want to point that out.
Yeah. No, it got
largest middle class,
got us
lowest,
through the 50s.
Let's say highest tax rate on the rich.
Yep.
The middle class went to college for the first time. They talk about soldiers going to prison or to college. It wasn't just soldiers. The middle class could not go to college before the GI Bill.
Right.
So it really did open the door for the middle class to attend college. So
yeah.
Anyway, so we got this guy. He's troubled. He's had a rough time. He goes to Harvard. Does he get his degree at Harvard? I think
that's right. Let's see. Yeah, Harvard, got his BA at Harvard.
Right.
London School of Economics, got his JD from University of Virginia, and then the master's at Pace University.
I think might have failed the bar, but plenty of good lawyers have failed the bar.
He failed it once, but he did get it. He did get it after that, and I think that he failed while he was a junkie.
Oh, did he?
And then passed when he got clean.
Sobered up. Okay.
Yeah. So, and passing it on the second try is admirable.
Oh, you remember one of the Kennedys that died in that plane crash? He failed to pass the bar, I think, 2 or 3 times.
It's
before he died.
It's a hard test.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Not a knock on your intelligence necessarily.
No.
So, anyway.
So let's see. So,
is there a point when things start to get weird, or is there an identifiable point where the guy I liked on the radio got weird, or is it slow and progressive?
As far as I can tell, it's right around 2005 that he buys into the Andrew Wakefield anti-vax bullshit.
So Andrew Wakefield, I guess a doctor in quotes, right?
No, he was actually a doctor.
Yeah,
he
but had written a paper that vaccines caused autism.
Right.
And that's what Jenny McCarthy and her husband caught on to and started going on Oprah talking about.
Everybody fucking jumped on that bandwagon.
Right. It was devastatingly damaging. And further studies that were done in Europe, exhaustive studies, by the way, just proved everything.
Oh, yeah. No, like the Lancet had to retract because that was the...
Which, by the way, the medical journal retracting something never happens.
No.
It never happens.
No.
I mean, it's like a very rare thing for them to say, guess what, this didn't happen, we're retracting it. It's not science. Basically.
It's not science. No,
yeah.
and nobody really talked about his conflict of interest in the fact that he was developing, in scare quotes, a vaccine of his own for the same thing. So he was trying to shed bad vibes on the vaccine that existed, so he could put his own out there. People bought that shit for fucking years. It took 10 years for them to fucking kick his ass out. It took 10 years for them to do it.
And think of all the babies that didn't get vaccinated because of that nonsense. And, we've talked about this before. There's diseases this country could have wiped out decades ago if we had just done thorough vaccines for everybody. Right. There's people getting, not the plague, but I mean, there's these rubella, there's these measles, mumps, there's these vaccines that should have died a long time ago. That's the only reason they're alive is non-vaccinated people.
And what's crazy to me is all the fucking hippies when I was a kid were like basically anti-vax, although that wasn't like the term for it, the schedule,
right?
Like the vaccine schedule is far too rushed.
Well, okay, so Bill Maher loves to say that he loves to make fun of people who are anti-science. He does it all the time, and then just turns around 1 second later and tells you that vaccines aren't safe.
Yeah, fuck that.
The science on vaccines is not just like vetted. It is the most vetted thing in the world, right? It is more dangerous to take 2 aspirin than it is to get a COVID vaccine.
Yeah,
that's how safe it is. Robert F. Kennedy and his idiot yoke will tell you we need to test this stuff better. Testing on the COVID vaccine started in 2015 when the bird flu came around.
It's so fucking stupid.
The idea that it's not tested, it's been tested millions, if not billions of times.
To death, to fucking coin to turn a phrase there.
How do you think Herman Cain feels about vaccine testing, right? Herman Cain, they retweeted him the other day because he tweeted there'd be a Trump event, there wouldn't be masks, and soon after that he died. So,
yeah, dude.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that whole thing. And I mean, and that fucking piece of shit is still out there touring.
Which one?
Wakefield.
He is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, that's the only way he can make money, right? I mean, he's got no way to make money because he's been fucking 86 from all legitimate science. And by the way, let me just fucking say, science is a fucking process, not a thing, right?
Do you mean like, for example, the scientific method?
The science is the scientific method. Science is not settled. It's always going on.
People who don't understand the scientific method love to talk about, well, it's just a theory.
It's a theory.
No. It's fact until it's disproven.
It's a theory until it's proven.
Well,
right?
So for example, there's the theory of evolution, right? The people who've revisited Galapagos recently, you could email them and stuff, and people are like, what do you think about Darwin's theory? And now that you're back at Galapagos, he goes, if you could see what I'm seeing every day, you'd know it's not a theory. So they'll still assign the word theory to basically established fact, right? Evolution is a fact. It's not a theory.
Now, isn't it like you come up with a question, you develop a hypothesis,
right?
Then it becomes a theory.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that the end?
Although theory is reinforced over and over again, right, with new evidence, right? And
right.
As studies keep coming in.
So it's always a theory.
Right. So I don't know when it crosses that bridge to become a fact, but obviously
I think that like just as the evidence builds up, it just becomes a stronger theory. I don't know if it ever becomes like I don't know if there's a crossover from theory to fact. I think that there's just this is the theory that we're working with because this is where all the evidence points.
Yeah, well, for example, RFK and all his lackeys love to talk about another thing they talk about, complete nonsense, is the water being treated by fluoridation.
Yeah.
Complete nonsense. All that anti-fluoride stuff, complete nonsense. And whereas the scientific evidence proves that over and over again, it's better. They had they had this one community, I don't know if it's Los Angeles, but they took out all the fluoride out of the water and the cavity rates skyrocketed.
Right.
And, there was no health benefits other than that. The only thing that happened was the cavity skyrocketed. So it's just, again, proven over and over and over again. So.
Yeah. I mean, they talk so much fucking bullshit. It's insane. Anyway, so I think 2005, that's where he really fell into the whole thing. And that was when, I think that was the same time period Jenny McCarthy got it. All the fucking assholes got into it and started popping off. And then, so at some point, and I can see, so I guess the next thing to talk about here is his deposition to lower his alimony payments to his ex-wife.
So how many kids do they have? Like a couple or?
I think he's got 6 kids or something like that. I
don't
know if
one wife.
I don't know what that knows.
Oh, okay.
He's on his 3rd right now.
Okay. That's Cheryl Hines.
Cheryl, which is depressing.
We got to talk about that.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. But
she's not too pleased with things he said, so we'll talk about that.
Some things.
Yeah.
Some things. Not.
Well, and she's still married to him, by the way.
She's still married to him.
Whatever criticism she had,
and she's supporting him.
Yeah.
And she's supporting him.
Yeah.
So
I guess she wants to be married to a presidential candidate.
Who doesn't?
I don't know what other incentive is there.
Who doesn't want to be married to Kennedy, dude?
I don't know.
But so he at this thing, it was basically testifying that he had lost. What is it? When you're losing the potential income potential. You're losing income potential because, one, he had a brain worm that had fucking eaten his brain and died. And 2, he had elevated levels of mercury. And these 2 things were giving him brain fog, and he was having memory problems and all.
Do we know how he
stuff.
got the elevated levels of mercury?
He ate a lot of primary fish. He ate a lot of like the apex.
So was that a diet he was on, or?
I think that he was a seafood
that was
guy.
just his diet. Okay.
Yeah, because really, he was. Okay. He's
So he had 2 traumatic brain events.
Two traumatic brain events.
And do you think that it starts to get weird after that?
Well, I think that is in 2010 or 2012, whenever that is. But that brain worm mercury thing would have had to have happened a few years before. So I don't know an exact timeline, but I'm putting it right around that 2005 period.
Okay.
And there, he's still got the calcified fucking worm in his brain.
He does.
Yeah. It
dies off, but it stays in there.
So they were going to go in and operate because they thought it was a fucking tumor.
Yes.
And then another doctor said, before you do that, let's check this out because I think that it could be a worm. And that's what it turned out to be. So is that
a parasite? Does that count as a parasite?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And they once they figured that out, they're like, well, we don't need to. Going in there and operating on your brain's a lot of fucking. But there's a lot of potential for bad news.
And so they're like, we can just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. Yeah,
okay.
Because it wasn't going to get worse. It wasn't going to get better. It was just fucking there. But yeah, so I think my theory. My hypothesis is that that those things happened right around the same time he started believing in insanity. Because up until that point, man, like, holy fuck, the guy was a goddamn, he was a hero. Goer, dude.
He was an environmental hero.
He was an environmental
how many of those can you even name on one hand, right? It's not really a thing.
No, and the things that he went, like, I was trying to find, like, he's got the fucking crazy beliefs, and we can get into those later. Yeah. But the things that he, like, was fighting, like, he was a true environmentalist, truly great work, moved environmentalism into the mainstream, I feel like.
Popularized
without
environmentalism.
him as a Kennedy, it would not have gotten as far as it did when it did. It might have done it, down the road, but he did some fucking great stuff.
Well, think of environmentalism pre-Kennedy, right? We're talking about those Greenpeace wackos,
right? Or
like it's very, very a hippie domain,
right?
That people kind of write off. But now we've got a Kennedy stumping for the environment. And, he went to Harvard. He's not some idiot. He knows what he's doing, supposedly. So, it's obviously right. It did bring a lot of credibility, I think.
Absolutely.
To the movement.
I totally agree with that. I think that without him, environmentalism would not have gotten where it did for like another 10 or 15 years.
Right.
Like, because he cleaned up the Hudson. He cleaned up all these native waterways. He worked.
In fact, he argued successfully that basically that companies were putting their factories and their runoff into poor neighborhoods. So he's also a social justice warrior. He's
just about to say that.
He's arguing, right, that essentially that we are taking these companies and putting them in the poorest parts of the United States and dumping those, that runoff into poor people's neighborhoods.
Absolutely. He was fighter for minority rights, indigenous rights, and it was all revolving around environmentalism.
Yeah.
But he was a fucking fighter for the little guy. He really fucking was. Yeah. And so it's like, to see this fall and see where he is now is really depressing.
It's like two different people. It's hard to believe it's the same person.
It's two different fucking people. And I do think that, I mean, we've talked about this. I think that traumatic brain injuries are... all right, this might be a little much, but I think that traumatic brain injuries cause people to turn into fucking nut job conservatives.
Okay, so let's slow this down. First of all, did we talk about the fact that half the people in maximum security prisons have had traumatic brain injuries?
We've talked about it. I don't know if we've done that on the podcast, but yeah.
Even if it doesn't link to conservatism, there is the argument that a brain injury obviously dramatically can change you physiologically and mentally for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. I mean, again, Hercules, our buddy
Kevin Sorbo,
friend of the pod.
Right? Friend of the pod. We talked about who else did we talk about? We talked about Gary Busey. Gary Busey went loopy after the
motorcycle accident.
Yeah, so it's a thing. I think it is a thing.
It's a thing. So I think that this combination of mercury poisoning and brainworm might have been enough to send him off on this thing. Although I believe that he probably, due to his childhood, was primed for conspiracy thinking.
Do you mean because of his uncle's assassination?
Oh, yes. Yeah, because of his uncle and his dad. He doesn't believe that Sirhan killed his pop.
Right.
He doesn't. Now, I know that he thinks that the CIA killed Jack.
Right.
I don't know if he thinks that there was another shooter involved. And that's not necessarily, like, I got my own ideas about that. And I mean, we can talk about that on another one. But I think that he was primed for conspiracy thinking. And also, he was exposed to like a lot of stuff when he was a kid. So I think that he had a
lot of chemicals.
No, a lot of education, a lot of learning,
a lot of different kind of inputs,
a lot of different inputs. And so he, as humans, we have a tendency to try and tie everything together. And I think
so that seed was planted when he was a child. Do you think?
I think that it kind of like, I think the seed was planted when he was a child. I think that the deaths of the people in his family contributed to it, and being a junkie, that's not the greatest way to get through. I mean, I know a lot of junkies, ex-junkies that, they're on that conspiracy train. Yeah. It happens.
I've been admonishing you to listen to "You Are Not So Smart," which is a great podcast, and one of the things he talked about, one of the episodes was conspiracy theories, and he might have had that author on that I've heard interviewed a few times. You might have even read his book, but there's an expert on conspiracy theories. And one of the interesting aspects of conspiracy theories is that the brain tries to make order out of chaos.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do as humans because of like fucking hunting. You need to predict patterns.
Right.
And that's what we're really good at, even if it's not there.
So obviously humans, since the beginning of time, have tried to make order out of chaos, right? Your house has, your stacked logs and your dishes are stacked, and right, there all these attempts to make order out of chaos. But as with conspiracy theories, they're very specifically dangerous because trying to explain the unexplainable or trying to explain awful things as if they weren't awful, meaning this has this cause because the alternate is just too terrible.
Too horrible to conceive of.
People love to talk about 9/11 as an inside job, right? The Patriot Act was done without any attempted cover or without any subterfuge, the most violent attack on our civil rights for the last 30 years and will never be reversed probably, right? No. The Patriot Act is an act of treason practically, and no one gives a shit about the Patriot Act. So the people that are obsessed with 9/11 as an inside job, just read the Patriot Act if you want to freak out, right? I mean, all these cops were getting busted for stalking their ex-wives using that technology. Essentially, right, every communication monitored on your phone and your text, every keystroke monitored, right? And no one gives a shit about any of that stuff.
And all that wouldn't have been exposed except for Snowden, right? Wasn't it Snowden that dropped that? Because
yeah. And by the way, when's the last time you heard about several, let's say, terrorists being apprehended because of the Patriot Act? No, nobody.
Never.
It didn't help anything.
It didn't do a goddamn thing except put everybody in America under surveillance.
Right.
Hell in a handbasket, my man. Hell in a handbasket.
Back to RFK real quick here. So I got a good one. He's always blamed Big Pharma. Big Pharma's the evil. Big Pharma's the problem. Well, I'm not saying Big Pharma's the good guys.
No. I think I know what you're going to say.
Okay. Well, real quick here. Salon.com. Salon had written an article basically espousing a lot of Kennedy nonsense, and they claimed that they assumed the Rolling Stone article was properly vetted, and it wasn't.
Oh yeah, right.
So real quick, he told Joe Rogan that Salon caved to pressure from government regulators and the pharmaceutical industry. Sorry. The editor of the Salon said, "I probably should have been fired for this. First of all, for not vetting this. That's just another lie." She said, "We caved to pressure from the incontrovertible truth and our journalistic consciousness."
That's such a good quote. That is such a good one.
So good.
My best, the best thing about that whole thing, he's all anti Big Pharma.
Yeah.
He fucking juices, man.
Oh, that's right. He's for his he's a weightlifter, right?
Well, he does TRT.
What's TRT?
Testosterone replacement therapy.
So is that illegal or is that legal?
No, it's not illegal, but it's Big Pharma.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's all bad until it's good, right?
Well, and so I mean, let's in 4 seconds, big anything is bad. That's
Agreed.
called a monopoly.
Yeah.
Right? Again, people have read hours and weeks of stuff on Big Pharma and they don't know a thing about the other corporate welfare queens. Why are we building a B-1 bomber every day? We're never going to use them. We have people like Boeing getting billions, if not trillions a year on war machines we'll never use.
To kill their employees.
Big everything is bad. It should all be broken up.
Yeah.
So we can all agree on that.
Yeah. One. I mean, re-regulation. Fuck
Yes.
this bullshit.
Thank you, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that's son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's a bastard.
One of these days.
We'll do Ronald Reagan.
We got to do fucking Ronald Reagan.
Sounds good. We can work on our Ronald Reagan impressions. Did you see the part about about Robert Kennedy describing vaccinations as a Holocaust?
Yeah. And that's the one that Cheryl got mad about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She said it was inexcusable basically and it was a horrible, insensitive thing to say. She's still married to him.
Yeah. She still supports him.
Yeah, I don't.
So, and not, see, the thing about that whole quote was it wasn't just vaccines are a Holocaust. Yeah. It was at least Anne Frank could hide in an attic.
Right.
What the fuck?
You
son of a bitch. Get her fucking name out of your mouth, motherfucker.
Yeah, the Anne Frank Museum wasn't really excited about that quote.
Dude, I don't think there was a Jew around that was excited about that quote, right?
I was at during the pandemic, we would do union meetings that were normally held in person. We would do them online. And one of the guys just speaks up towards the end of the meeting and he says, "Yeah, I can't believe we have to get vaccinated. It's like Nazi Germany." And at the time, I can't believe I didn't say something because I think I was so just blown away.
You're like, what the fuck?
That was said in a union meeting, not by a drunken idiot next to me at a bar, but at a union meeting. It's just like, wow, what are you doing? And I said to his coworker, "What's up with him?" And he's all, "Yeah, he's a little weird. He's a libertarian." That's all you need to tell him. He's a libertarian. I'm good. Problem solved.
Son of a bitch.
I have so many notes here. Where do you want to go next?
Well, let's kind of continue through because
Yeah.
I mean I think 2005 that's when he started kind of going off the deep end.
Right.
I think that he was still doing he's been doing environmental work all through it though. Like he still is doing good, although I think that he's been kicked out of all of his or retired from all of the boards that he's been on.
Right.
Like,
They don't want to be associated with him anymore.
He's not part of River Keepers.
No, I don't think so.
I think a lot of them have come out and said, yeah, I don't know what happened to Bobby. He lost his fucking mind. And,
Yeah.
I'd like to get more on that. I'd like to see where the change happened.
What about for them? Because he was such a great face for environmentalism.
Oh my God. I'm sure he mentored hundreds of fucking lawyers.
Yeah.
Hundreds of lawyers. I mean,
He's doing good work.
It's one of those things. It's so sad to see this, like this guy that's doing such good things turn around and just flush it. Everything.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that like when 2010, 2012, that's when he's going through his divorce.
Asking for scale back alimony.
Right.
Yeah.
What's after that? What do you got after that?
So that was 2012, right?
Yeah.
So 2015 is when he described vaccinations as a Holocaust.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, he participated in a speaker's forum to promote the film Trace Amounts, which promotes the discredited claims of a link between autism and mercury in vaccinations. So that's at that screening, he called the increased cases of autism a Holocaust.
So he doubled down because 2015, he said that like stumping on the campaign trail. So like last year, he said the same thing on the fucking
he did
on the mall
about the Holocaust
in Washington. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where he said the thing about fucking Anne Frank. So I mean, this is like he's still popping off with this bullshit in the less than a year.
You know, he released a video with Anthony Fauci with a Hitler mustache.
Dude, like his whole I couldn't bring myself to read the fucking the Fauci book.
You know, here's the thing too. Like I remember people say George W. Bush is worse than Hitler. It's like, that's insensitive. That's bullshit. And then when Trump happened, I'm like, okay, so maybe he's pretty awful. Maybe we could start making that analogy a little bit here because he is a fascist and a garbage person and a racist and all that. But in general, people, if you're looking to make a good point, don't use Nazi Germany and Hitler as an analogy because like it's not that it's verboten. It's not that it's off limits, but like
it's
that's a pretty extreme. That's the most extreme example.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever Fauci is, to call that kind, decent person Hitler, it's like it's the basest form of communication.
And what they're mad about is the fact that once a doctor says something, then it has to be true eternally.
So they're mad that they were told one thing and then later on told another.
They don't understand science, just like we were talking about. The truth, science explains the truth in an ongoing manner, right? It's an ongoing and necessary pursuit.
And that's they make mistakes, by the way. And they make mistakes.
And they make a mistake, and then you fucking correct it.
Exactly.
And that's what they're fucking mad about. Because really what triggered the fucking Nazis, fascists, was the fact that he said, don't wear masks. And then, nope, you should probably wear masks. And he admitted like later, he's like, yeah, I got that wrong. Fauci did.
So at one point he was saying, don't wear masks.
They were saying don't wear masks. And part of it was
because they weren't certain about the efficacy of the masks though.
Part of it, but also part of it was that they had a shortage and they didn't want the doctors to fucking get a run on it and lose out.
So
it was bad enough as it was.
Okay. So at one point it was a shortage and they basically said, save the mask for the doctors.
Save the mask. Don't. Yeah.
Right.
And so, I mean, they played it stupid in a lot of ways, and they did lay the groundwork for the conspiracies to come out. But
well, these assholes, about New Zealand, right? New Zealand shut right down when they had when COVID became a thing. The smart countries shut everything down and had no cases of COVID.
Right.
I don't mean zero, but like a negligible problem with COVID.
And like you were saying before, if everybody had gotten vaccines up in the front there, it would have gone away. Like we had a chance to get rid of it, and these fucking crackers.
So many deaths.
Oh my God, so many deaths.
Yeah,
And you hear people, like, one of the arguments that fucking this asshat fucking puts out, Robbie puts out, is that, well, we had so many deaths here. We had more deaths than any other major country. It's because you assholes fucked it up.
Of course they did.
Fucking bastards.
Yeah, and of course, there was a podcast host. He was in his 30s. He had kids. He died after being vaccinated. So that is possible, but it's pretty rare.
And it's not almost causation is not correlation.
No, of course not.
Right?
And that doesn't mean he died from the vaccine.
That's what I'm saying.
Of course not. No, it means he got COVID anyway and died.
Or he had something.
Well, I mean, you could have an adverse reaction to anything. You
Right.
really could take an aspirin and die.
But VARS, the reporting, so there's VARS. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but basically it's the vaccine adverse reaction place that you complain. You say, I had an adverse reaction.
Yeah.
They've paid out money from there just because they I think it was in the 70s or the 80s, they gave the pharmaceutical companies basically blanket immunity for any adverse reactions because
it was impossible to.
That's the only way they could have gotten to produce it.
Right.
Because otherwise there's liability.
Sure.
So they put money into this fund, this VARS fund, and then people call in, say they had an adverse reaction. They do a modicum of inspection on the whole thing. Like just they don't go super into it. It's not like proving it in court. So it's easier to get a payout from them. So there's people that have been paid out for these things. They do the science afterwards. Almost none of them are due to a reaction to a vaccine.
Okay. So they do try to vet those.
They do try and vet them, but they pay out in advance because it's like, that's what this is for.
Yeah. This
could be, here's some fucking money. We'll leave it at that. So it's just, there's the amount of people that actually get sick from a vaccine is so minuscule compared to how many fucking vaccines.
I think they use the word statistically insignificant.
You're right. Exactly.
Like it's not 0.9%. It's like 0.09. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. There's a couple zeros in the front. Yeah.
Speaking of bad science, we've got to talk about the Samoa measles outbreak.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not jumping around too much, but RFK visited Samoa coinciding with the 57th annual Independence celebration, where he started talking about his anti-vaccine things. He was talking about anti-measles vaccines and stuff like that. So Kennedy's charity have both, and Winterstein have both perpetuated the allegation that the MMR vaccine played a role in 2018 deaths of 2 Samoan infants. So despite the subsequent revelation that the infants had mistakenly received a muscle relaxant, Kennedy's drawn criticism for fueling the vaccine hesitancy amid a social climate that gave rise to the 2019 Samoa measles outbreak, which killed over 70 people, most of them children.
Kids. Yeah.
So that moron, cited he cited nonsense,
right,
to get people to stop getting vaccinated, and it killed 70 people.
Yeah.
So right there, just that alone, responsible for those deaths.
Yeah.
Our great guy, our environmental lawyer, is now killing people.
Yeah.
You're very discouraged. You read a lot of his bio. You said you listened to a lot of his bio.
I listened to a couple hours of the American Values.
A couple of hours. Ugh.
Yeah, and it was like it was so much mythologizing of his family and his past.
Yeah.
Glossing over any kind of question. Oh no, Uncle or Grandpa Joe wasn't a bootlegger.
One thing I'll say is, this isn't in defense of him. Obviously, child to child, experiences really do vary, though. I mean, I've heard awful things about Grandpa Joe, but of course, as you know, different siblings do have different relationships with some of these people.
Absolutely.
So it does. I mean, obviously, you've had brothers and sisters. You know that there's a pleaser, there's a rebel, right? There's an archetype within every childhood structure with different children, right? So all I was going to say was, not necessarily his defense, but just to understand that people really do have different kind of, let's say, reactions to their similar childhoods. You know what I mean?
This doesn't feel like that.
You're like, fuck that.
No, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like...
Does it feel like he's actually overcompensating?
It feels like he's spinning a mythology to get people to perceive him in a different way so that he can run for president. I mean, I feel like.
So you're saying it's very carefully manipulated language
Yeah.
about his childhood.
Yeah, and about the family. You know, I mean, like, and again, maybe I'll finish it. I don't
Well, no, dude.
Well,
there's too many good movies you need to watch. Fuck that book. No.
I've heard that, like, I read reviews after I stopped reading it, and they're like, the first chapters are pretty boring. There's no real insight into him or who he is until later in the book. I don't know if I got it in me.
I'm going ahead and give you permission to not do that. Don't think it's necessary.
I never quit a book, man. I never quit a book, and I never quit a movie.
All right, we got to talk about this because you don't quit books and you don't quit movies, but there's all this great shit you haven't watched yet. Yeah. So I think we need to reform your dedication. You're very dedicated. That's a good quality.
Yeah, all right.
But you're sticking with some really bad shit.
There's some real poopers out there.
Yeah.
There's some real poopers out there. Like, before we get too far into it, how does this relate to Vitruvian Man? Why?
Well, so when we started this podcast, we said we wanted to talk about these dangerous influencers that prey upon people's, let's say, ignorance and genuine eagerness to sell something, right? In this case, he's selling a presidency. So he's not the same phylum necessarily as Andrew Tate, or some of these other guys that we've talked about, but he very much is a grifter, whether or not he believes it, right? He is selling bad science and conspiracy theories. For example, wireless. He's a believer in
5G, and also it's not just 5G, it's also cell phones. He claims there's
radiation,
been a huge increase in cancers of the brain.
He claims that based on what?
Well, whatever delusion he's got, whatever fucking scientist he's picked.
Yeah.
But so I guess what I mean is, like, a lot of almost everybody we've talked about, all the things that we've talked about has been in some way related to, how masculinity and how there's a really narrow vision of masculinity for a lot of people. And that's bad. That's a bad thing. How would you throw him into the mix as far as that goes?
I mean, I'm not judging people who exercise. He's a bodybuilder, right? So we have to throw this into the mix here, because he's saying an ideal man is not just smart; they're big and ripped.
He's not a bodybuilder, but he's in good shape.
Okay,
he's in good shape.
He's not a bodybuilder.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's not.
He lifts weights every day.
Right.
So he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's obviously big into exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, so again, nothing negative about that, right? There's plenty of good men that exercise and believe in exercise. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
You, for example, a good dude. I guess obviously it's different when someone like that is talking about their, supplements and their, he's putting forth essentially, he's would call himself, I would say, an ideal man. I don't think that's necessarily controversial to say.
I think that with his Catholic beliefs, he would not say that.
Oh, you're saying he'd be too humble?
I believe that he...
Oh, you're saying he believes it but doesn't say it?
I believe that, yeah, I mean, yes, in a way. And that's not like a dig at him, but I think that he would have qualms with that just because of his religious beliefs.
I don't think you could talk about any Kennedys without talking about masculinity, right? I mean,
any
Kennedy that we're talking about here, Ted Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, that whole family, right?
Ted, maybe.
I mean, Ted killed a girl and that got covered up.
Yeah.
So that's some toxic masculinity right there.
Yeah. Chappaquiddick wasn't mentioned in the book as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the guy is glossing over his childhood, he's not going to talk about Chappaquiddick.
So I wanted to see what you said about that, because I kind of gave it a little bit of thought trying to figure out how
what did you come to? What conclusions did you come to?
I guess my problem is the way that he presents it as, It's kind of what you're saying. He's presenting this idea. He's going down to Gold's Gym in Venice, or he's going down to, what is it, Muscle Beach in Venice, taking his shirt off and, coughing out 9 crappy push-ups or, whatever. But he's out there trying to utilize this idea, that this mythology that he's creating about his family and himself.
And about what a man is.
And that's it. That's it exactly. And how they are manly men and should be taken seriously. And
despite the evidence.
And also, I mean, I think that he's trying to put that down. And I think that a lot of the conspirituality kind of gurus, the yoga fucking gurus and all these people, I think do the same thing, is that they try and pass this idea of health off as being a more higher vibration person, as it were. But I think we kind of came to the same conclusion there. I feel like he's
putting forth kind of idealized,
he's selling some bullshit
ideal about what a man should be,
and in the process of putting that down as what the ideal man should be, he's ruling out a lot of truly masculine people. Like, I think what we're trying to put out there is the fact that masculinity is a broad palette, or it's a huge thing. It's a big tent thing, and what he's selling is masculinity and using to forward him and his agenda. He's narrowing that masculinity down to this idea, and in the process he's roping in a lot of these fucking grifter assholes, Brogan, Ben Shapiro, fucking,
he's been on
Hannity.
I think all their podcasts.
He's been on thousands of fucking podcasts, dude. With the way I can't believe how much there is out there of him, and he's really, like, it's fucking hard for me to listen to. Like, his vocal tick I can kind of get over, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that he just acts like what he's saying is pure truth, and it's not. It's demonstrably not.
Absolutely.
And when people start trying to call him out to him, like it was Brian Tyler Cohn, I don't know if you know who that guy is. He's pretty good. Pretty smart kid, right? He got him on his podcast, and he was like,
"Oh, is he the atheist, the friendly atheist?"
No, that's from Meta.
Okay,
but this is Brian Taylor Cohen. He called him out on it, and
he did.
Yeah, I mean, he did it
on which aspect?
On lies. He's like, that's demonstrably false. He's all, but where are you getting your data?
Yeah.
Well, from the science. Well, I don't believe that science, right? So it's like you bring up an opposing point of view, and he just says, well, my science is actual, yours is bullshit, right? So it's just like, and it's not.
And that's the dangerous part, is he's not quoting science. One of the things I learned about him was he's preying on black people's, let's say, paranoia about, for example, the Tuskegee Airmen experiment.
And what he's suggesting people do with testing fucking vaccines more is the Tuskegee fucking air experiment.
Is he suggesting we should all conduct our own experiments with vaccines, or what did he suggest?
What his idea is about vaccines is, so he says, I'm not anti-vax.
Yeah.
I just think that vaccines
his children are vaccinated,
should be tested more, right? I think vaccines should be tested more. So how do you do that? Well, his idea is that you do a double blind. So you're going to inject some kids with fucking a vaccine and some kids with a placebo and expose them all to fucking measles.
That's insanity.
That's insanity. Yeah. Like that's the Tuskegee experiment. I don't mean to belittle that, because that was fucking horrific.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept. It's like you're experimenting on kids that have no fucking agency.
Right.
They don't have a fucking choice. You're going to let some of them get it and some of them not.
Well, and
see what happens.
Those black airmen didn't have choice in it either, right? They were,
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They didn't have agency.
That's the analogy.
That's
right.
Why I'm saying that.
But it is especially insidious to bring Tuskegee up when you're talking about all this faux science stuff.
Right.
Because he's taking a population that's already so vulnerable to some of this stuff.
For good fucking reason.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, no. Yes. Should black people be paranoid about the government? Yes. Should they be cautious about the government? Yes. Should they be afraid of their government? Of course they should.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Absolutely. Yes.
But sometimes they're actually trying to help.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people out there trying to do the right thing.
Right. Now, I know we have some notes left, but I do have to talk about this July 2023 dinner event where that Kennedy said there's an argument that COVID-19 is ethnically targeted.
Oh, God.
Adding that COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. And the people who are the most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people.
Weird.
Real quick, I had to, after I quoted that nonsense, I had to now immediately quote virologist Angela Rasmussen as saying, Jewish or Chinese immunity are not a thing in biochemistry, but they are in racism and anti-Semitism. Like, oh my God.
And
just when you think it can't get worse, he says something like that. And that was last year.
That was last year. Yeah.
It's not
no, that
25 years ago. It was
well, I
last
mean,
year.
it's
Yeah.
because of COVID. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a fucking, he's a nut job, dude.
He is a nut job.
And it really, like, I didn't want him to be.
No.
You know, I mean, it's like he did so much good.
Yeah, he really did.
He really did so much good. And when I went into this, I didn't realize just how much good he had done. All the people that he had fought for.
Yeah.
And all of the things.
Causes that we would be behind. Causes that we would have supported.
Absolutely
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
And he's helping these minority communities in the name of environmentalism, dude. How fucking dope is that? That's like the best fucking that's my goal. Like, I wish I could have done that with my life, right?
Absolutely.
That's fucking dope.
Oh, if any of us had done the first 25 years of Robert F. Kennedy's
career,
we would all be proud of ourselves, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. An environmental lawyer that had this many victories against big corporations.
Huge
Retire
impact.
and be proud of yourself. Absolutely.
No.
Did you read about what he said about Bill Gates?
Well, I know. I mean,
well, real quick here, Bill Gates, one of the great, philanthropists in the world. I mean, he's giving away almost all his money. Bill and Melinda Gates are giving away about 90% of their money, and to really good causes like starvation in Africa.
Fine, I have my opinion
Okay.
on that. I think that his intentions are not purely philanthropic, but
he did though accuse Bill Gates that would cut off access to the money of people who would not get vaccinated, allowing them to starve.
These ideas are just pure lunacy, and nobody calls him out. Like, well, you were fucking wrong.
Right.
Nobody has that. I think that he's got his handlers keep a fucking tight leash.
Absolutely. But are you saying? Okay, no, wait a second. Not that we need to do a whole Bill Gates episode right now, but why don't you like Bill Gates?
It's a tax break, man.
Well, no. Okay, look. Every rich person gets a huge tax break for giving away their money or for doing charitable contributions. So I can't call someone good or bad for giving to charity. Giving to charity is something they all do as a tax shelter. Absolutely.
Yes.
So
that's like, I mean, I don't have any conspiracies about him, but I do. Anybody that fucking rich, dude.
Well,
I question all
my wife would
motivations.
say, how many children has Bill Gates fucked and killed? Now, before I put that on the ether,
well,
I'm just joking about Bill Gates, but she's basically
please
saying
don't sue us.
Once you're that uber rich,
Yeah.
no one's ever saying no to you. And if no one's ever saying no to you, some of your deepest, darkest desires might suddenly become quite interesting right? You can afford it.
Once you get bored with something and you can afford to move to the next more expensive thing, that's what
you
happens.
will. And that's what that Jeffrey Epstein Island was all about, right?
And
so
Bill Gates was there.
Sure. I'm sure that's true. I can't
No,
address.
he's on the flight logs.
Well, do I think that people went to Epstein Island, had a drink, and got drunk and passed out? Yes. Do I know for a fact that many of them had sex with underage girls? Yes.
Yeah.
I guess I can't say that Bill Gates had sex with underage girls because I have no proof of him doing that.
Venn diagram. We don't know where that Venn diagram
just
goes.
want to put that out there that there are people that got drunk and passed out on Epstein Island and didn't fuck children.
Please don't sue
Can
us.
we just say that out loud here? So apparently that list, my nephew the other day said that list is about to get leaked. Did you hear that? That the Epstein guest list is about to completely get leaked, like all of it.
It doesn't fucking matter.
No, I guess not.
Until those goddamn DVDs get released.
What are the DVDs? Oh, they of the parties?
It's the blackmail DVDs that they fucking took out of the apartment in fucking New York. The blackmail DVDs.
Those were
every single fucking room in that house was fucking wired for sound and camera.
Right.
And it was all recorded.
So he
Everybody
got
in
dirt
there.
on all the clients?
Everybody anybody.
Yeah, I wish he hadn't committed suicide. Then we could ask him about this.
Oh, yeah, that's suicide. But absolute horseshit. Okay. I've always believed that, in an infinite universe, everything has a non-zero possibility of happening. Except for Epstein killing himself. He absolutely didn't fucking
Absolutely
kill
not.
himself.
That's insane.
It's just fucking ridiculous.
He was murdered to shut him up. So.
And I mean, the DVDs, dude. If those ever get leaked, there's justice.
I hope so.
Otherwise, it's all bullshit. Them releasing anything is just to keep the crumb diggers happy.
Right.
Oh boy. See, there's my conspiracy theory right there.
Which one? About the
I have a lot of conspiracies revolving around Epstein and the whole Q thing.
why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's just so ripe for it.
Yeah. I mean, clearly bad shit was happening.
And all the procurers. I mean, it's just
Sex slavery is a bad thing.
It's
all over the world. It's constant. It's ongoing.
It's horrible.
The United States is not at all clear from that. It happens here all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Awful.
It's awful.
Okay, I'm depressed now.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, let's get back to
this idiot.
This fucking musclehead.
Did you see the we talked about the anti-Semitism, we talked about Fauci with the Hitler mustache. What kind of notes do you have?
So I was just going to get back to like some of the good things that he did.
Yeah.
Because he really got into doing renewable energy. Back in I guess it was the 90s, the late 90s, he really got into doing that. But the other thing that I thought was good, and because you hear a lot of these fucking meatheads talk about, nuclear energy is the way to go, which fuck that. I don't agree with that at all, because like, until there is no fucking problem with that waste, until they've got a way to shoot it into the fucking sun, that's just far too dangerous to be out there. And I think
all energy has waste, right? I mean, for example, electric cars are cool. You and I worked in an electric car company. There is obviously waste produced by batteries, right? There's every
absolutely.
energy has a cost,
right?
But obviously, the way we've handled nuclear waste and stuff has been really irresponsible.
And it can get out into the open.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just too fucking dangerous. But he is against that, as at the same time being for using other parts of renewable energy.
Sure.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting take. There's not a lot of people that have that that are influential that have that concept. That
Absolutely.
Idea. It was dope. He went to Puerto Rico and sued the U.S. Navy on behalf of the fishermen and residents of Vieques.
Right.
They didn't want him testing the bombs, no more military exercise, all that stuff.
The fishermen were being like, I read about this. Their livelihood was at stake. Right?
Yeah, it was fucking up. It was fucking up the coast.
Right.
I mean, it was taking away their livelihood. It was killing the fish. It was killing. I mean, it was fucked up. And it was, they're firing fucking ammunition and shit out there and leaving. I mean, it's just fucking classic military bullshit.
Right.
But he ended up protesting and ended up getting arrested for trespassing, and went to maximum security prison in Puerto Rico for 30 days. That
I did not read. How did I miss that?
And he named his son Vieques,
which means
that's where he got busted in Puerto Rico. That's the name of the town.
So you said he named his son Vieques?
Yeah. Which is the name of the town in Puerto Rico.
Got it.
Yeah. So,
okay.
And the first time he got to see his son, he was in prison there, and his wife came and brought him in.
Okay.
Pretty, touching little thing about dickweed. But I mean, like, again, all the good stuff that he's doing, going after fucking factory farms for the pollution. That's
right. Actually, he was one of the earliest to go after, I believe, factory farming.
Yeah.
Right? He actually put that in the spotlight, and we all know about this now. We've seen documentaries or heard about these documentaries that are about these awful factory farms, and he was one of the first to really shed the light on that, I think.
Yeah, because it looks like he, the water keepers, and he had legal and public relations battle with factory farms, and so that would have been probably in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right.
And then it looks like he sued them in 2000. Yeah. So I mean, what a good thing. Another fucking
awesome
good thing.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's just amazing. Just the fall. I just don't understand
I mean, much like we talked about Ruth Bader Ginsburg last week and all her amazing, triumphs for social justice and for people. Like, obviously, his career is just riddled with these amazing decisions that he was, that he'd argued.
Yeah.
So it's too many to count.
Yeah. Now the crazy. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, there's all the anti-vax stuff. I mean, the HIV doesn't cause AIDS. Fucking polio isn't a virus. What an asshole, dude.
It's such a funny thing to like argue too. If you argue that 5G is giving me brain cancer, there's at least enough unknown where I can twist that into a cohesive argument.
Right. Well, maybe we should do some testing. Right? I mean, because who fucking knows? What's 5G? I don't know.
But some of these wild things, like why?
Dude, why?
Why would you say that out loud? Did you mean to think that and not say it out loud, or? It's just so great. It's so nuts.
The 5G wireless comms. And his whole, he's trying to hit the independent voters with this, but the NATO caused the Ukrainian war.
To what end?
So NATO was being the aggressor, and Putin had to respond. And so it's classic right wing. They're not pacifists, but they're isolationists. They don't want to be involved.
Kind of,
they're mad about NATO.
Adjacent.
Yeah, they're fucking mad about NATO.
Because NATO is interfering in world politics.
Because they feel like, it's the isolationist idea.
Yeah,
right? It's purely like, we shouldn't be involved. And the thing that fucking drives me nuts is that I think that Kennedy is one of these assholes that fucking says that Russia should join NATO, which like, do you know what NATO is? Like, do you know why NATO exists?
Isn't there something about, I mean,
it's to fucking keep Russia in line.
Right.
Originally it was USSR, but now it's fucking Russia. Like,
and how good of a job are they doing at keeping Russia in line?
I mean, pretty good, really. I think that they're doing much better than like we would be in a much different place if NATO didn't exist.
That's good to know, because obviously there's so much propaganda against NATO.
No,
constant propaganda the last several decades about that.
If NATO hadn't been around, all of those places would have been, all of the Eastern Bloc countries would have been taken over already.
So that's good to know.
And they would have been plotting expansion.
Right.
Like I'm kind of a hawk as far as things go. I know
a war hawk.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hawkish on things because I see,
as opposed to an isolationist, you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and even to like a pacifist, I am absolutely not a fucking pacifist. I'm,
well, I mean, we can be anti-war. We can say that out loud, still understanding that, I'm not saying the U.S. should get involved in every armed conflict.
Right. I'm not an imperialist.
I mean, when Clinton went to Bosnia, it was because he did nothing about Rwanda. And 1 million people were massacred. Yeah. So it's like, I understand isolationists, right? They're saying it's not our business to get involved, especially like in Iran, where we assassinated a democratically elected person, right? Replaced him with a Shah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, obviously, I understand isolationism. It just occurs to me, though, that if these big superpowers watch these massacres happen, what is the point of civilization? What is the point of achieving this mass of technology and humanism if we allow these horrible things to happen? So that's why I understand the argument.
Yeah. I think Ukraine wasn't part of NATO, but when they're still not, although everybody's they voted to get them in there at some point in the near future. When Putin went into Crimea, shit should have gotten fucking real then.
Right.
That was him testing the waters.
And they did not
And they didn't
push
do a
back.
motherfucking thing.
Yeah.
And I think that if they had gone in there and shut that shit down, they wouldn't have pushed into Ukraine and turned it into what it is now.
So it was a mistake.
It was a big fucking mistake.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the red line that Obama ignored in Syria.
Right.
Fuck that. Like, he should have fucking gone in there because, I mean, it's a fucking horror show.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I was just gonna say those are my peeps in Ukraine, so it's where my family comes from. So, yeah, woo, Ukraine,
Slava, Slava Ukraina.
But I mean, I know you're a war hawk, but I mean, I assume you're not for dumping all that money into Israel to oppress the Palestinians. I mean, that seems
no, but I do. I mean, the whole thing in Israel is such like that's another fucking nightmare because fuck Hamas.
Of course,
Hamas are a bunch of fucking jihadi pieces of shit, dude. Like that invasion on October 7th, and it was a fucking invasion. Like that was a planned invasion, and they would have killed more and fucking kidnapped more if they had any opportunity. What they did was fucking absolutely awful.
Right, an invasion that was greenlit by Netanyahu because Netanyahu was told by Egypt that they were going to invade. He did nothing about it.
I don't think that he knew just how big it was, but absolutely.
So in other words, you're saying it's not he didn't allow it to happen. You're saying he understated how bad it was going to be.
I don't think that he believed. I don't think that he knew or understood how much firepower was going to be coming.
He thought it was going to be minor.
I think he thought it was just going to be another thing.
Right.
And they had those all the time. And that like those kind of low body counts, that small casualty, he was willing to deal with to keep them as the boogeyman.
But as you pointed out, though, Netanyahu is a piece of garbage, and he actually funded Hamas.
He gave Hamas over time $1.1 billion. Like, so he funded Hamas. He shot down any chance of a secular government coming into play.
Right.
He wanted them in charge so that he could do this eventually. And that's why he allowed those fucking, the goddamn settlers to push into the West Bank and all those illegal settlements he let stand. I mean, it's fucking horrible. But he's got to fucking get rid of Hamas, man. Like, otherwise it's going to happen again.
And it's rough, too, because like it's almost like Netanyahu needs to step down and have a real leader to actually make some sense out of this.
Yeah, because
Netanyahu's hands are so bloody at this point. I don't know how he can
such
save
a piece
his
of
own.
Shit, dude.
Yeah, he is.
He's a true fucking piece of shit.
Right.
And like, two-state solution, all about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Israel absolutely has a right to exist.
Sure.
And I think that the current run of anti-Semitism that's happening right now is proof of that. I think that it's fucking horrific how much anti-Semitism is popping up right now. And it's all due to this fuck, dude, just...
Well, obviously, I mean, COVID actually, we talked about this a couple of episodes ago. COVID's brought rise to a lot of racialism. So
yeah, true.
Certainly Jews have been attacked a lot, but definitely racism on mass has gone way up across the board.
Jacked. Absolutely. Yeah. And the other side of it is that there's been horrible fucking anti-Palestinian.
Yes.
Like it's fucking, it's awful. It's awful all the way around. It's a fucking horrible thing. And I think the only thing to do is get rid of Hamas, like fucking destroy Hamas and get fucking Netanyahu out of there and put in a more reasonable government and get rid of the fucking Orthodox, like just make them serve in the fucking military. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck you and your breeding ass.
Crazy religious Jews, by the way, are as crazy as any religious
any
people.
Other fucking religious person.
Absolutely. I'm an atheist Jew. Don't get me started on crazy religious Jews. They are fucking nuts.
Fucking crazy, dude.
You know, there was a lady that she survived the Holocaust and was returning home to Israel, and the rabbis on the plane refused to sit next to her because she's a woman. Dude. It's like that woman survived that to get that ridiculous shit heaped upon her by religious rabbis.
Dirted by her own fucking
conservative
religion.
Rabbis. Like, no,
fuck those people.
No, it's insanity.
I mean, they're like, I would put them on par with Hamas. I mean, they're like, are they? I don't know this. Are they proselytizers? Do they try and convert?
I don't think so. That's maybe their only saving grace.
Okay.
I mean, do you know about kosher plates? That you got plates for your meat and you got plates for your dairy. Do you know about that?
I know about kosher.
Do you know what
cookware.
happens if you use the wrong plate for the wrong food?
You got to throw it out, right?
No, you bury the fucking plates.
Yeah, that's
you don't just throw them out. You bury them.
You bury the plate.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's insanity. So whatever, okay, so they're not proselytizers. They're not trying to bring in new members necessarily, but every other crazy thing they do. So
no, I was just thinking because I don't think, Islam doesn't really proselytize either.
I don't think so, no.
So, I just want to make sure my
I think those are both true. Yeah.
Accurate. Okay. Because I mean, yeah, they're fucking crazy, and they're out there killing people too, man.
Yep. It's bad news.
It's horrific.
Are you out of notes, or do you have some more notes?
No, I think that's it.
We
totally got fucking dialed off the rails there.
My bad. It was my fault. We should talk about that. RFK's had a lot of pushback from the family. Several members of Kennedy's close family have distanced themselves from his anti-vaccination activities and conspiracy theories on public health, and condemned his comments equating public health measures with Nazi atrocities. Now, there was an open letter from a few of the Kennedys saying that while Kennedy has championed many admirable causes, he has helped to spread dangerous misinformation over social media and is complicit in sowing distrust of the science behind vaccines. So, I mean, that can't really say it any stronger than that.
That's our podcast right there.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's everything tied up in one sentence.
Yeah, so his family's not happy about this. I mean, obviously they were very proud of his victories, but not so proud of his nonsense.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Cheryl Hines doesn't seem to mind. She's still married to him.
I know.
Anyone that likes Curb Your Enthusiasm probably likes Cheryl Hines. Just seems like a decent chap. A really lovely person.
Hilarious. Like a great comedic actor.
A great actor. Absolutely. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Hilarious. So I think any fan of that show is disappointed to hear that she's still supporting her husband in these matters.
What's Larry doing about it? Larry introduced him.
Did he really?
Yeah.
And I think Larry's been, I don't mean he's an environmental warrior, but I mean, Larry's given to several charities, is interested in the environment, is, obviously, so he must see all this and just shake his head, I mean, Larry is a skeptic. Larry is, I'm not saying he's a person of science, but I don't imagine he's proud of any of that stuff that RFK is doing. So not a fan.
Oh man, what a bunch of schmucks.
Now, what do you think? Are you done with your notes?
I'm trying to see if there's anything else in here.
Make sure you didn't miss anything there, because I got some other things here too.
Vaccine. Well, okay. So this is just a tidbit, really, more than anything else.
Yeah.
But he was was it 2000? Where is it? I think it was 2015. Yeah, so I think it was 2015 or 16. But the center, it was March of 2021, Center for Countering Digital Hate named him as one of a group of a dozen, the disinformation dozen, that spread 65% of the misinformation on Facebook and Twitter over the course of.
So they are major propagators of nonsense.
He polluted millions of people's minds.
Right.
I mean, like him and these other big tree. There's a whole list of them.
And you can't understate this, right? Like, how many millions of people died because of COVID in America?
I think
it's in the millions. I'm saying that, right?
I think it's only 1 million. Let's check it out. But yeah.
So let's say it's a million, right? I mean, what would this country look like with proper science and proper masking and proper, I mean, we're talking about if New Zealand shut all this down, and they did. Could you imagine the death toll being only 50,000, which, I mean, obviously is horrific. But we're talking about these people helped kill hundreds of thousands of people.
Hundreds of thousands of people. They change people's minds. There's a song called Louisiana by Prof.
Right.
And one of the lines in it that fucking hits me every time he says it is, I fucking let a liar change my mind.
Wow. That's great.
Like what? Fuck.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, I'm not saying he's anti-science, but I remember when the vaccine came out, he's all, yeah, I'm not getting vaccinated. And I said, why? And he goes, it's not safe. And I purposely read a lot about the vaccine because I knew I would know people or meet people that were anti-vaccine and afraid to get my son was afraid to get the vaccine. So I had to really be armed with the truth. And I just said to him, dude, I swear to you, it's safe. It's so safe. Have you had a flu vaccine? He said, yes. I said, it's safe as a flu vaccine.
Yeah, right.
And one time he's like, hey, man, when you coming over? I'm like, when you get vaccinated. And he did. God bless him. He did. He got vaccinated.
Shit.
So it's like, I think, all we can do is offer the truth.
Yeah.
That's all we can do is show him the receipts,
Yeah.
So
I'm not finding U.S., but total worldwide deaths, 7,010,681.
And I would imagine I don't think it's insane to say that the U.S. had a disproportional amount of deaths based on population.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? If our country is only 400 million people,
it's not even that.
A million people dying is a lot of people.
It's a lot. It was like, it
compared to China and India.
Well, China had,
of course,
they had a lot.
But I mean, that's a totalitarian regime. It's hard to collect any data from how they handle the vaccine. So one more thing though, we do have an asshole of the week.
Oh fuck! So we got Bobby out of the way.
I think so. Unless you want to say something else.
I think I'm done.
Okay.
Just before we get to it, let's how do we tie it in? What do you think? Is he?
I guess we talk about any man or woman that is interested in becoming a mature adult should constantly question their own ideals, their own ideology, their own biases, right? And I think if we were all doing that, there wouldn't be people like RFK. First of all, he wouldn't exist, possibly, but people wouldn't buy his line of bullshit if they were constantly assessing their own biases.
It's biases, and I've probably said this to you, but I think education, there should be no private schools, there should be no homeschooling. There should be a curriculum that everybody fucking gets, and it's largely focused on critical thinking, American law, and
civics.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't get me started on the educational system. It's broken, but yes, the idea that someone can yank their kid out of school because the kid's learning science or learning about the true racist history of this country, which we're finally starting to teach. The notion, and I think people love to talk about our freedom. Dude, there are all kinds of things that compromise your freedom.
Yeah.
You have to wear a fucking seatbelt in your car. Why? Moron, because you're more likely to survive. You ride a helmet, you ride a helmet. You ride a motorcycle. There obviously are motorcycle riders that are not crazy about helmets. And I totally get it. Fine. Then you sign the waiver that releases us from taking care of you when you splat on the ground.
Right. Because it's not about them dying or getting hurt. It's about the cost to the fucking public.
Which we all pay, by the way. We all pay for that.
Right. It's a taxpayer thing.
So the idea that we have complete freedom to say and do what we want is just bullshit. That's not true about any country. Yes, we live in a society of laws and regulations and societal norms, and you just can't go on pretending like we have complete and utter freedom. We don't. So, maybe schools should really be, I don't mean forced, but right. Unless you have a medical reason to not be in school, why are you allowed to take your child out and indoctrinate him into stupidity?
Into being a fucking dumbass. Yeah.
It's not good.
And there are kids that figure it out and they escape, but it makes it so much more difficult.
Yeah, my wife worked with a guy who's kind of a math genius. He's almost a savant genius. He's so smart. And his parents were snake handlers.
God.
And so when he posts things on Facebook, he restricts the audience because he doesn't want his religious and zealot family members to talk about the things he's talking about, because he's very much pro-science, and anti-religion, anti-religious dogma. Right. Yeah. So he doesn't want to get in these big arguments with his family members, but he likes to post the things he wants to post on Facebook. So,
well, I think he'd be much more manly if he was still doing environmental law.
Yeah. That was a man I could admire. Yeah. Obviously. A person I could admire.
Yeah. All right.
So, okay. So the asshole of the week is Rob Schneider.
Asshole of the week.
Why is it Rob Schneider? Well, people that are my age, 57, and they remember Saturday Night Live being funny. And I don't mean it's not funny. No, I mean, they remember Rob Schneider doing his characters on Saturday Night Live. Part of a great cast, hilarious. Now he's less funny. The other day, he got kicked out of a speaking engagement he was doing because it was just like a medical charity or something. And he started going on and on about liberals and vaccines. And so he's an anti-vaxxer. So that's why we're talking about Rob Schneider today, because earlier this week, he once again appeared in a news cycle posting a photo on Twitter with presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So Rob Schneider, who claims he was a liberal that voted Democrat, is now siding with RFK and endorsing him.
Did he fall off of something?
Is there? Where's the head injury?
At what point did he fucking hit his head?
Yeah, I mean, in an interview in 2017 with Larry King, he said his political affiliation was independent, but is definitely more conservative now due to the opposition to taking any form of taking away people's rights. There's a push and a constriction of freedom that he's coming from the left now, he says.
See, he was never on the left, dude. Anybody that says they were independent,
I don't believe that.
It's because they couldn't tell everybody that was around him that he was a conservative.
I think I'm saying this right, that he voted for Obama and Trump, which does blow my mind.
I have a real hard time believing anybody exists like that.
So there are independent voters, and you'll see them interviewed 2 weeks before the election. I haven't decided who I'm going to vote for. So just so I understand this, there's this nice grandpa who does nice things for people, and there's this insane moron who says Nazis are great, and you haven't made up your mind yet,
dude. And the fact that I just think that people that say they're independent like to pretend like they're really thoughtful. They're really giving it a lot of thought.
It's like they want attention.
I don't know if that's really racist.
I'm not sure.
I can't tell. I need 2 more weeks.
Right, because
I need 2 more weeks.
Before Trump got elected, right? I mean, he had mocked disabled people.
Dude.
He had openly spoken about sexually assaulted women. He had talked about, if his daughter wasn't his daughter, he'd have sex with her. These are not misquotes. These are essentially what he said.
These are on video.
But I mean, you're right. So there's people 2 weeks before the election saying, should I vote for Biden or should I vote for this insane sexual predator? I think I need to do more independent study first. I guess you're trying to draw attention to yourself.
That's all I can think.
I don't know.
That's all I can think.
So for Rob Schneider, hey, dickhead, making copies. You suck, asshole. So what was you going to say?
I'm trying to think of the movie that he
some really bad ones. Deuce Bigelow.
Some really bad ones. Deuce Bigelow.
Oh, you like Deuce Bigelow?
No.
Okay, that was another one you liked.
What I did, what was it? I mean, he's always in the Adam Sandler movies. Was it Happy Madison?
Sandler's got his guys that he puts in. I don't blame Sandler for that. Sandler's got his friends from SNL.
Hooking up with homies, dude.
Exactly.
You got to take care of your boys.
A lot of those guys from his SNL days show up at his movies and whatever.
Yeah.
So
got to take care of your boys.
Yeah. So, but Rob Schneider's a dick.
He's a dick.
I don't know what to say about him. Virulently anti-vax, just says there's not enough testing, just all the same nonsense that we just talked about.
Hell in the handbasket, oh man.
Yep. Not good. Well, before we go though.
Yeah.
Noam Chomsky, there was a rumor that he died this week.
Okay, that was a rumor, right?
He didn't die.
Yeah.
Thank God. Noam Chomsky, one of the greatest thinkers in the last 50 years, certainly. Yeah. Just wonderful. Just a critic of Israel's policies. Just I don't remember the last thing I read by Noam Chomsky that I didn't love.
Right.
But there's a couple quotes I got from him because I had to bring him up just because he always said distrust the media, and the media comes out and says he's dead. It's like, see, I told you, distrust the media. There's just a couple really great quotes here. He said, wanton killing of innocent civilians is terrorism, not a war against terrorism. It didn't say he was talking about Israel there, but it sure sounds like it.
It can apply if he wasn't.
Of course.
Yeah.
This is a little bit longer, but it's great. He says, as long as the general population is passive, apathetic, diverted to consumerism or hatred of the vulnerable, then the powerful can do as they please, and those who survive will be left to contemplate the outcome. I mean, I'm not sure there's a more Trump quote in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just do the racist dog whistles. Let's get everybody upset. Meanwhile, let's just seize all your freedom and power.
Yeah. While you're looking over there,
yeah,
we're going to take away your right to abortion.
Yeah.
We're going to, et cetera, et cetera.
Bless you, Noam Chomsky, and your big brain.
And on that note, Donald Sutherland did die.
Donald Sutherland.
R.I.P., baby.
Again, like Michael Caine, like every movie he's ever been in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the movie was any good. He was always good.
I'll always remember him, Body Snatchers. That's the big one.
That face he makes.
At the end. Oh, my God.
Man.
So good.
Was he Ordinary People?
I don't know if he was.
I think he was Ordinary People because
that would make
there's
sense.
that great scene with him and Mary Tyler Moore, and they're talking about their son who's passed away, and that acting that Sutherland's doing there when he's pleading with her to, you're arguing with this about this nonsense, and our son is dead. Just wow.
Yeah.
Too many great movies to name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real bummer.
R.I.P.
I liked him. Rest in power. All right. So did we solve the problem?
Well,
you're supposed to say yes.
Okay. Yeah. We fucking hella
we
solved
knocked
it.
that shit out. All right, brother. I'll see you next week.
All right, dude. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Rock on. You have been listening to The Trivium Man. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you can either call us at 415-484-8841 or send us an email at thetriviumpod@gmail.com.